on the start of the 2025-26 academic school year, having a conversation with the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, Mark Malavo. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Malavo.
Thank you.
On the aspect now of transportation, the government has rolled out the rural school bus program system this morning. I did see some footage and some images as well from one of our reporters in the corporate area who has been seeing how things are going. Seems to be happening smoothly in the corporate area. We wait to hear an assessment of first day for the rest of the island at the end of today. But have you been getting any updates? Have you made any observations about the routes, how the rollout has got underway this morning?
No, we have not gotten any updates on that as yet. We are, however, monitoring the situation. We will be able to give a formal response to that initiative sometime later today.
But from the association's perspective broadly, what do you make of the program? Something like this finally a part of the Jamaican school system?
Yeah, we support the program. There are concerns that we have with respect to how it is that you're going to expand the program. There are concerns that we have in terms of how do you monitor the students effectively and how do you do the timely interventions during those monitoring processes. We are prepared to sit with the Ministry of Education. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting scheduled sometime this week. Mm-hmm. It's a matter that I intend to raise in terms of what our concerns are and have that deliberation as to how it is that we can make our contribution to improving the system.
You said you have some concerns in relation to monitoring. I did hear the transport minister, the government indicating putting on CCTV cameras on these buses, having wardens as well, having an online system where parents can actually track and see where their children are on their way home or heading to school. Is it that you're saying that the rural school bus program needs more in relation to monitoring?
Put it this way. Yes, we are aware of those things, and so whether as to the extent in which they will be effective is another matter.
What do you mean?
Okay, now let's look at the issue of movement of students, particularly within the corporate area. There have been occasions, for example, where acts of indiscipline raise its ugly head. In terms of student violence, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. How is it bringing the students into a cramped space may very well ignite certain fires that we do not want to ignite. But how is it that we are able to effectively monitor and do the timely interventions to get security forces, for example, onto those scenes to treat with those acts of indiscipline, especially when it reaches a high level in terms of violence. So these are concerns that we may have.
But don't you think that the interventions being made now might minimize that sort of a thing? And make it easier as well for the security forces to find out where the buses are, since you have a tracking system?
Yeah, man, it may minimize. We want to eliminate. And that's the ideal. And we are prepared to make our contribution in terms of the discussion as to how it is that we can even better improve the system.
What else is on that agenda, those concerns that the JTA plans to take to the table in relation to the start of the academic year?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Malavo, we're hearing you.
Yeah, you should talk just now. Go ahead.
Not a problem. I was asking, you said that you have a meeting set to happen this week with the Ministry of Education. And of course, you mentioned your concerns in relation to the rural school bus program that you plan to take to the table. I was asking what other concerns does the JTA or has the JTA identified?
Well, the nature of those meetings has to do with operations of schools. It has to do with as it relates to issues with respect to teacher issues. So those are some of the issues that we tend to take to those meetings. Of course, there are issues of resources and financing of education. So we do have those monthly meetings with the Ministry of Education, and we have the discussions around some of those items that may, and sometimes new items will come on the table for discussion and deliberation for action.
Here's a key area on the agenda for this academic year, Mr. Malava: strengthening literacy. The Education Minister, Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, said yesterday that literacy remains the top priority of the ministry. We want all our children to be confident readers at their grade level. It is for that reason we have timetabled reading in schools for grades 1 to 3 across the country. And we'll also be providing more storybooks to our schools to help increase literacy outcomes. How do you think the Jamaica Teachers Association can assist with this thrust now to ensure that all children are reading at their grade level?
One of the fundamental issues that are affecting many of our schools, believe it or not, have to do with resources. So hearing the minister speaking about those things, I welcome it. There must be, however, a concerted effort to treat with the issue of inequitable funding of schools, because at the end of the day, many of these literacy programs do require a certain initiative. There's a need as well to better align or realign the education system. Yes, I have heard, for example, what the minister said. I have heard pronouncements about students not being promoted if they don't meet the minimum requirements, and all of these are welcome. It is how you action it and how you implement it. We have to move from announcements and making announcements to actually getting to a point where the tire really hits the road, and that's where the issues are for me.
How does the literacy issue square with what you're identifying in terms of inequitable funding or resources to certain schools?
I actually spoke to it. What you're finding, for example, is that the inequitable funding of our schools have helped to contribute to schools not having the necessary resources.
Give me an example. Give me an example, a comparison, Mr. Malava.
All right. So let's look at a particular school in a particular area. Many of these schools, what you're finding, they get students of a particular type, and their literacy levels are below what their reading levels is not where it ought to be. Schools now have to respond in treating with these issues, in terms of doing the intervention, to get the students up to a particular level. If the schools don't have the resources to do this, then the intervention program will not be effective. And what you're finding is that many of our upgraded high schools have resource constraints. And what you're also finding as well is that many of these upgraded high schools are getting the students that are not where they are to do in terms of the literacy and numeracy. And that is where it ought to be treated with. At the primary level, it is also a major point of concern. Schools currently get, I believe, 2,500 per child at the primary level. This is woefully inadequate to treat with the resource constraints within our schools. Many of our teachers have to buy resources out of their own pockets to aid in the teaching and learning process. And we need to get to a point where we tackle the issues of inequitable funding, because in many instances it is holding back our schools.
I did ask earlier, I heard you identifying the resource challenges out there for some schools in comparison to others in relation to this whole matter of literacy. But I did ask, from an association point of view, how does the association see itself assisting in this literacy thrust that the Education Ministry is taking on now to ensure that every child is reading at their grade level?
Well, one of the things that we do, we have a seat at the table. We have those discussions with the ministry. We do the monitoring. We get the feedback from our teachers within the JTA, for example. We have various committees, including primary committee, secondary committee, and early childhood committee. Based on those committees, they have particular mandates, and they make certain recommendations they make certain recommendations in terms of what they believe are to be done. We carry those recommendations to the table when we have those discussions. In addition to that, we do also have various professional development sessions with our teachers to help them to upskill them with the necessary skill sets to drive teaching and learning in the classroom, particularly as it relates to literacy.
All right, Mr. Malava, well, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me this morning. I look forward to an update from you, perhaps not today, but at the end of the week, to find out from your members, the teachers, how the first week of school went and any gaps that you may identify that can be addressed by the ministry. But thank you so much for coming on this morning and speaking with me.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, we're going to take a break here.